One of the ways to approach a gospel like the Gospel of Matthew is to see it as a voyage of self discovery. That is, to take the position of the disciples and apostles as they encounter Jesus and begin this journey of coming to understand who and what Jesus is. It was not something done once, it was a continuous process of growth and development. We are going to be turning to Matthew's Gospel, chapter 14, and we are going to be looking at verses 28 to 31. I'm going to be reading from the Weymouth translation. Master, answered Peter, if it is you, bid me to come to you upon the water. Come, said Jesus. Then Peter climbed down from the boat and walked upon the water to go to him. But when he felt the wind, he grew frightened, and beginning to sink, he cried out, Master, save me. Instantly, Jesus reached out his hand and caught hold of him, saying to him, O little faith, why did you doubt? It is probably not a surprise if you have read the Gospels to see that Peter is the one who seeks to come out of the boat and come after Jesus as Jesus walks on the water. The picture we get of Peter is in this passage is consistent with the picture we have of Peter throughout the Gospels. Peter was always the one who had the audacity to respond first, and often without thinking things through. He sees Jesus coming and says, What about me? What about me? Jesus says, What is holding you back? Come out of the boat. The key for me is that Peter spoke first and fought second. It did not take him long to realize that just maybe it was not a good idea to be walking on water. What looked good in the boat did not look so good when his ankles and his knees felt the waves. Then he felt the wind which was whipping up the lake. Then he could look down and see that he was actually walking on water. Once that happened, he began to sink like a rock. This is a great passage on faith. On the one hand, we can all understand only too well what happened to Peter. What looked possible in the boat did not look so good once he was out on the lake. God calls you to a task. You say yes. You get a confirmation and blessing from your church to do that task. You then go and start what God called you to, and then you realize you are walking on water. The natural response is to focus on the place you are and not on Jesus. Like Peter, instead of looking out to Jesus, you look down to your feet. You then begin to doubt what you are called to do and to be about. You begin to think maybe it was not God who called you into this. You begin to think things were better when I was in the boat. You start going this way and you will fail at your task. You have to keep your eyes on Jesus. Notice what Jesus said was Peter's problem. Jesus did not say that there was an appropriate way to walk on water. Jesus did not say that maybe, just maybe, you are walking too slow and tentatively as you are walking on the water. You see, Jesus said that the problem was not with his technique. The problem was with his lack of faith. How much of what goes wrong in the church is because we focus on technique and not faith? We give classes on how to properly bend your knees when walking on water, or classes on the proper gait, G-A-I-T, for walking on water. The point is that we in the church can focus on the need for right technique and miss the point that none of that matters. The only thing that matters is that we keep our eyes on Jesus and have faith in him. Peter did not sink like a rock because he was walking on water. Peter sank like a rock because he did not hold to his faith. Jesus is calling you to walk on water this day. Jesus is calling you to get out of the boat. You see, we are not called to live life in the boat. We can picture the boat in our case as living in the comfort and confines of the church that we are familiar and don't really take any risk in. No, we are called to get out of the boat and walk on water. Now, do I know what boat ultimately it is for you that you need to leave behind? Do I know what lake you are ultimately to walk on? The answer to both questions is no. All I know is that he calls us, all of us, to leave our places of security and comfort. Jesus calls us all to a life of faith and tasks that we can only accomplish as we keep our eyes focused on him. To be Christian is not about doing a number of Christian things, including having faith. To be a Christian is a person who lives by faith and as a result does a number of Christian things. You see, if you are doing Christian things with no faith, then you are simply doing churchy things and not Christian things. So, do you feel the wind yet? Do you feel the waves lapping at your ankles and the spray hitting your knees this day?